Sometimes to truly make a change, you have to do something big, something dramatic, and something that ensures that you never go back to the emotional and physical traps that have made you so unhappy. One of the best days of my life was the day I smashed my scale. I loved it so much, I think we should all do it. And to make rejecting diet culture even more exciting, I'm giving away free advice and prizes, including a full year of body kindness coaching with me. So to join, visit bodykindnessbook.com/BK Scale Smash. That's bodykindnessbook.com/BK Scale Smash. There you give your name and email and you'll get the motivational coaching from me. Lots of ideas for how you can participate right there on the page. And I look forward to joining you all summer long while we work together to just tell the world that we don't need scales, we don't need judgment, we don't need criticism. What we need is body kindness. Hey, thanks so much for listening to Body Kindness. If you like the show, I would love if you would subscribe and leave a rating and review. That's very helpful for me and also so others can discover the episodes. Before we get into today's show, I just wanted to give you a bit of context. So I talked to a photographer for the first time, and it's a female photographer. Her name is Kate T. Parker, and she's a mom, and she has an interesting story for how she even got into photography, which you'll hear on the show. But she had a photo series that went viral. It was all these images of young girls just in their natural state, and it turned into a book called Strong is the New Pretty. I love this book so much. Later on in toward the very end of the interview, I share how I read it with my girls and how we have conversations about the pictures and make up stories, maybe about what the girl is thinking. We talk about sports or activities they might like to try. We will sometimes try to recall a memory. And there's these wonderful and powerful quotes by these girls. I wanted to bring your attention to the fact that we both noticed that this tends to dissipate once girls hit puberty. And we didn't go into too much detail about why that is. We were running out of time. But as you listen, I would encourage you to think about your own experience with photography and being in photos. We address body concerns and how a lot of times that can be difficult for people to agree to be in pictures. And it can be very troubling and stressful. And so I hope if you get nothing else out of this podcast, that you find some strength and courage and motivation to say, you know what, even if I don't feel like I have this amazing body, or even if I don't feel like I even deserve to be in the photo, that I refuse to be erased from my own life. And so I'm going to pose in the picture, and I am going to remember the experience and the people and live my life now. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. I really love how her work focuses on young girls as a mom of 2 girls myself. And just as somebody who, I feel like body image has been an issue with me since I hit puberty. And so I get that transition from innocence to basically you suck and, your role is to look like an unrealistic ideal. And, that inner critic can really just thrive when we don't challenge it. No matter where you're at in your journey, just accept it. You can grieve time lost and memories lost, but you can also choose to move forward and choose body kindness. Thanks for listening. Kate is the author of Strong is the New Pretty. She's a mother, wife, former collegiate soccer player, Ironman, and professional photographer who shoots both fine art projects and commercial work for clients across North America. Her Strong is the New Pretty photo series has led to collaborations with brands like Athleta, Kellogg's, and Oxygen, and is now a book as well. The project has also inspired Kate to launch a philanthropic arm of Strong is the New Pretty, partnering with organizations that invest in girls' health and education, like Girls on the Run, Glam for Good, and Girls Inc. She lives with her family in Atlanta, Georgia. Kate, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's just dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Oh, sure. So I am a mom I have two girls who are 8 and 11. I'm also a professional photographer, so I shoot commercial work for clients, and I also shoot projects that move me and that I'm really passionate about, like Strong is the New Pretty. And so I try to really that hard balance between working and being home and being invested in both. It's very hard.
It kind of pulls you in all the different directions, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Because I love my job, but I love my girls. So it's always that like push and pull all the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So you were a competitive athlete, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played soccer for my whole life. Like I had two older brothers that played soccer. So I immediately, the second I could, wanted to play soccer and played throughout high school, played in college. And then after college, I really still needed an outlet. Like I transitioned to doing triathlons and marathons and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. How many marathons have you done?
I've done 3.
Cool.
Yeah. And now I'm a little older now. And now I'm more running just for pleasure as opposed to going out and running a 20-mile run on the weekend.
I know I've done marathons too. And it's interesting because running was part of what, so I struggled with my body image when I was younger, and running was part of what like allowed me to appreciate my body for what it could do as opposed to what it looked like. But certainly there's a big difference between that sort of energy and time you have, say, to put into a marathon, I don't know, when you're 25 or 30, as opposed to adding a decade plus
yes.
onto that, it can have an impact. So, but it's also good to kind of, I think, let yourself transition into, as long as your mindset is what's good for my body, what feels like self-care to me. It's okay to let something that mattered to you, even a lot, be part of your past, because there's other things that you care about too. And it's part of, I think, being nice to your body is realizing its limitations, maybe.
That is such a positive way to think about it. I never really thought about it that way before. It just, it was a part of my life for a long time, but now my life is a lot fuller. Mm-hmm. So that working out is more of a means to for me to mentally be okay. Like I work out because it feels good and I feel good after, not necessarily because I'm trying to lose weight, but it's just more about, I have to go for a run. Yeah. I need to go for a run.
Right. Yeah. I remember I was busy and the girls both got sick. And so there was a lot going on. So I wasn't really kind of doing my days weren't my regular routines, including my exercise. And I think it was like 4 days in a row when I missed. And it was like, I need my exercise. Like you really realize that sort of health benefits it can give you to just deal with life on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For me, I noticed that like if I miss a few days or I'm not working out regularly, I don't deal as well. Yeah, I need that release, whatever that, I think I'm addicted to that feeling and so it's a good one, I guess, in terms of
endorphins.
Yeah, I definitely am. So, but it's been, for me, always like what I kind of always come back to is, oh, that feels good. It's my outlet. It's my release. And, it's relatively healthy.
Yeah. And actually it's more, when you actually delve into the data, which I need to do often for my work, it's more important to move your body than it is necessarily to make sure your body is losing weight or, looks bikini ready or whatever that cultural push is for women to like look pretty, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's more important that you actually just move your body and take care of it than really weigh a certain number or look a certain way. So, okay. So I want to talk about your photography for a little bit. So my husband's, he's a camera photographer, but he also has done still photography work, and he works with some amazing still photographers. It is something that he always gets upset when someone says, "Wow, you must have a great camera." Yeah. And it's like, well, there's a lot of artistic skill that goes into being a photographer. So I would just love to know a little bit of your backstory, how you got into it, what you like about it. Let's start there.
Oh, sure. It's funny because I used to be a little embarrassed about it because I wasn't fully confident. But now it's funny, in the last year or so, I've been able to be honestly tell how I started, because I taught myself how to shoot and edit on YouTube. Awesome. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't really I took one class, but it was for lighting. But my background is, I used to work at CNN. And then after that, I worked at an advertising agency, and I was a video editor and a producer. So I was used to making things very compelling on a screen. And working with art directors and graphic artists, and I think all of that really wore off on, or rubbed off on me, that I had this taste level for what I thought a good image should be, but my skill level when I stayed home when I had my first daughter 11 years ago. I was home with her, and like a lot of parents, I started taking pictures of my kids, and my taste level and my skill level were very widely different. They were not meeting. And I just kept working and working and working to get to where I could shoot the images that I thought were beautiful. So yeah, it was all just practice and practice and practice. And that's really how I started learning how to shoot a camera, learning how to shoot manually, learning Photoshop, learning Lightroom, all these, how to make a good image.
So it really it was something that piqued your interest, and you wanted to get better at it. So you just basically good old practice with a little bit of education online or in the classroom as needed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. I had this flash of recognition that that's what I want to do. I want to be a photographer. Even before I knew how to do it, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I don't know. I feel like I've had a couple of those in my life where it's you have to do this. And that was one of them. And I was really just sort of hell bent on learning how to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And it's also, it's interesting because in the research on positive psychology, as far as, when people say, my life is really meaningful, my life, and that kind of contributes to your happiness, and this idea that, like on the t-shirt, life is good, right? And one of the things is feeling engaged. And whether that's in your job or with a hobby, so to have this sense of engagement. And another important one is achievement and accomplishment. So it's interesting that you found something, you had an interest in it, it kept you engaged, which keeps a person learning and growing. And you also were able to achieve success with it. So, those two pieces alone kind of get woven into this idea of, when you say you had that zing or that light bulb, that gave you the energy to keep pursuing it. And I bet, if I had to venture a guess, that you're also now finding your work very rewarding and also part of what brings meaning to your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not where you could have told me this is I would be creating a book or I'd be shooting commercially, and I would not have believed that so many years ago. It was not my intention. I wanted something that I was in charge of, something that I could dictate my hours. I could dictate creatively what I wanted to do. And the fact that it's turned into this amazing job and career that I love and is really meaningful is it's like a dream come true. And it's not what I expected or set out to do, but it's really, I love it so much.
It's one of those things where maybe it chose you, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I just can't escape this photography thing. Well, so I have a question for you. This came up when I was preparing for our conversation. And it was the first time it just kind of clicked in my mind, where I thought of a photographer's view. So many people who have read Body Kindness or who listen to the podcast, they're really working on this idea of building this inner caregiver voice. And they're really working on non-judgment, self-compassion, self-acceptance. And a big part of that is working with their body image, right? So, no matter what weight, shape, size, flaw, in some way they struggle with not feeling good enough, not objectively looking and know that they don't fit to society's ideal. And it can really get in the way of, their own well-being and self-care, their own energy and optimism to kind of go out there and live life like today, no matter what. And so my question for you is like, now as a professional photographer, how, and you shoot images of the body, how do you see bodies as a professional photographer? Like, what is it that you see when you're looking through the lens?
So it's something I really try to focus on when I'm shooting, is that there is something, and usually it's way more than one thing, really unique and very beautiful and different about everyone. And I try to figure out what that is. What is the spark in that person? What is interesting? What makes them stand out? And ultimately for me, that's what makes them beautiful. And I try to figure out the best way to show that on my, in my camera. So and I do it with kids, with adults, whatever it is, like whatever that little unique part of you is really what I try to capture. And a lot of times, for us, it's something that we don't embrace, or, for kids, it could be your freckles or, your glasses or your braces or something that makes you stand out. I always feel like it makes you stand out in a good way. And I try to do the best I can to put a positive spin on it with, capturing a gorgeous image of this part of you that is really like the force that is the really positive part of.
Yeah, I like that. And to me, it's like what you're saying is that it might not necessarily be like, say you get compliment on the color of your eyes or something, right? Like that might be what you see, but you might see something else that the subject may consider a flaw or may never notice as something that they can appreciate. But that may be the very thing that you call out as what is an element that's going to make your kind of the winning photo that you end up going with, right? Because we all know you take a million bajillion and then you get that one hero photo.
Yeah, but like it's your smile or energy or whatever it is, there's something to be, about everybody, something beautiful and something interesting and something compelling about everyone. And a lot of people don't see that about themselves, or they don't recognize like, oh no, you have your, whatever the thing is, like your hair color or your freckles or your energy is amazing,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then I try to work that into the image.
Yeah. So this is bringing up another question. Often clients will talk about like, not wanting to be in pictures, right? So anything from just let me take it, to suddenly they have to go to the bathroom, when the shot is being taken. And it really comes down to not being comfortable seeing themselves in a photo. And we would talk about like that. No one's saying that you need to feel comfortable being in this picture, but by not being in the picture, it's like you're erasing yourself from the memory, from the event, like from the thing. And
mm-hmm. Yeah. Not to just like delete yourself because then, I don't know. I don't know. I think just especially as a mom, like trying to get in pictures with your kids, they don't care what you look like. They just want, you just want a memory that you were with your mom. They don't care if your hair's not done or you don't have makeup on and I don't know. I think like if you're happy and you're joyful, it comes across.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you can't be happy and joyful, can you be at least neutral to understand the bigger picture is that you are in the photograph? Because I do think, kids are very wise,
mm-hmm.
And it could be very confusing or challenging for a child who loves their mother or father so much. and might feel confused or sad that they don't feel they have a right to be in the picture too. So
exactly. Yeah.
And for some reason, right, we can always do it for somebody else if we can't do it for ourselves. That just
it's hardest. Yeah. You logistically and like, you know what you're trying to do, but you're like, nah, I get it. I understand. Like I understand that feeling of not wanting to get in the shot, but it's just, it's one of those things that it's worth it just to get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually, I haven't done the course, but there is a woman who basically does a program where it's I think it's around 30 days, but it's of self-portrait type photography that you could do just with your phone. But it's this idea of engaging with your vulnerability for consistently for so many days and getting all these pictures that then you can look at and notice those good things.
Oh yeah, that's true. If you have to look for something good, you'll find. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like how we were talking earlier about how you kept practicing and you look for those elements, it kind of becomes, yes, you are the subject, but you consistently engage with learning this skill and also, getting in the habit of being in the photo. And I do think that it matters because I think that, a lot of people, they either won't be in the picture or they will, but the second they see it, there's going to be a criticism coming down the corner. And then sometimes they'll verbalize it, which is, I think if it helps you to talk to somebody that I'm not discouraging verbalizing that, but it is always difficult to kind of hear somebody talk bad about themselves, like in a way that you would never talk to them or in a way that they would not talk to another, to kind of feel that pain that person feels. I just think it's much better to at least get to a place to where, and I mean, hey, you could vouch for this, not every photo is going to turn out amazing, right? Like there's a lot of photos that it's actually not you. It is the light or it's an angle or
photographer. Yeah. A lot of, and the things I hear a lot of times are the people are, oh, I cannot believe, look at my smile or whatever. And most of the time I am like, what? That's the thing like, that is your, you have it gorgeous. Usually it's like, it has, for me, it's like, it's not founded in any reality or truth. You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was your thing you're worried about. Like, because it's gorgeous or whatever the reason is. It's just, you get in your own head and then you can't really see past it. Like if you look at a picture of yourself, that's the only thing you see is whatever flaw you perceive.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Like if we think of how we relate to others, we see the whole person, right? Like when I think of my best friend, I see Dawn, like I see her as a whole person. I see her as all these wonderful things that she's brought to my life. But in our own heads, we kind of pick like a part, like, oh, it's my muffin top area or, whatever it is. And we kind of reduce the judgments to like individual parts. And if we could see ourselves more as this whole,
Yeah. Nobody's thinking about that but you,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and those kind of, things can run deep. I've had clients who've said my mom always kind of picked on my nose. And when I was young, I remember my mom saying I should get a nose job or whatever. And now that type of a case is not like, that's kind of like somebody who had a lot of just difficulty, in that relationship. But it's when something like that happens, it can hurt for a really long time and just take people a long time to kind of make peace with their insecurities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, they're coming from a real place. But as an outsider, as a photographer, a lot of times I'm like, I would never have thought that. It's just, it's interesting coming because, people when they place themselves in front of the camera, they're very vulnerable. And And it's scary.
Well, I want to transition more into talking about your book, Strong is the New Pretty. I love the subtitle, A Celebration of Girls Being Themselves.
Oh, thank you.
Yay, yay, yay. Like that is, I can just, in that line, I see so many things just like, so enough with the pink, enough with the princess culture, enough with, and even though like my daughter likes pink and she likes to wear her princess crown. So I'm not saying it has to be elimination, but I think the second we talk about young girls, there's this sort of, it's about pink and pretty. It's about, and then as they get a little bit older, it's about becoming an object to adore. And then it can only go downhill from that. And so I love the book. I would love to kind of know more of the backstory about the photography series that led to the book. So how did that get started?
So I was, like I said, I was shooting my girls all the time. And for me, just to get better, I was practicing as a photographer. And I was getting ready for a gallery show here in Atlanta, where I'm from. And I had to cull from thousands and thousands of images to find the 20 strongest that told the best story. And I noticed that those 20 images were the ones where the girls were being themselves. And for my girls, that meant fearless, and most of the time they were dirty and their hair was not brushed and they were not necessarily smiling for the camera or had brushed their hair or put on an outfit specifically for a picture. And I realized after kind of taking this like top down view of these images that was worthy of celebration. I wanted my girls to know that was beautiful, that not changing yourselves, that not, doing anything besides being who you were was enough. And I wanted them to have that. And that as a photographer, the best way I could do was to take pictures of it and celebrate it in that way. And that's how the project started. Really very small and just with my girls.
And then it kind of took off.
It did. So it's funny because that gallery show, not one single image sold at the show. And I was kind of like,
don't we love those things no, we have to talk about that because it's funny. Like I'll get an email from a podcast listener or someone who read the book. It's like, I'm totally fangirling over you. And, I don't even know if you're going to read this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I read it and I'm thinking like, oh gosh, I was like, if you only knew I got like 3 rejections from blah, 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 So I think it's so good to just let people know that like, it's not like everything in life is handed on a silver platter and that normally there's a lot of like you suck moments that somebody else handed down to us.
Yeah. And I could have just been like, yeah, I suck. I'm not doing anything else. But I did. I sat with that for a little while. But then I got mad and I still thought there was something worthwhile in this message. And I thought there was something there. So I was like, you know what? It's fine. Nobody needs to buy a picture. But I still thought there was something worthwhile in the message that I was trying to share. And so I packaged up those images like a PR person and I sent them out to a few blogs that I followed. Not expecting, and just because I had done a lot of work to get them to the gallery, and just because I was like, oh, I did a lot of work, nothing sold. Let me see if anybody else cares about this, and then it kind of snowballed, and it was unexpected. It went viral from there. It was kind of everywhere, and it was on like CNN, the Today Show, and that's how I had an opportunity to do the Strong is the New Pretty book because I kept getting emails when it went viral. Where's the book? Where can I buy this book? And I was like, well, there's no book. No, there's not a book.
Yet.
And then immediately it made sense to me. And I was like, oh, I would love to do a book. What a great way to make this concept something concrete that you could hand to a girl that needed to hear it or have on your coffee table, for your kids to pick up and read. So immediately it made sense. I was so thankful to have the opportunity to get to expand the project from, because my girls have a certain kind of strength. They are tomboys, but strength looks so different in every girl. And I wanted to be able to show that diversity of strength and interest and what the girls look like and what they did. So I went all over the country, shot almost 200 girls for the book, and they all had these really amazing stories. And I was really thankful to get to show that diversity, because when the first set of images came out, they were really my girls and their friends who are tomboys. And a lot of people said, what's wrong with pink? What's wrong with princesses? My daughter likes that. And everything I had said in the article was, it's about accepting girls as they are, who they are, princesses, whatever it is, accept them for who they are. But I didn't show it. So I have to show it as a photographer. So I was really glad for sort of that first round of criticism. I was like, no, I do need to address this. I do need to show this.
Yeah. Well, I love the way the book is organized, so they're kind of categorized into different character traits that you are wanting to evoke and highlight in these young girls you photograph. So like confident is strong, resilient is strong, kind is strong. And so you get to see these beautiful photographs with a quote from the girl. And then in the section, you get to see quotes from women who have, we all know, we will recognize the names, who have achieved success, arguably through their own strengths. And yes, I just think it's really special the way that it's organized, and it would look great on a coffee table. It's a good, I like to read to my girls every night, but there are nights where you're just like really no time. And I feel like we can flip through a few of the pages and we can read the quote and we can study the photo and kind of talk about, well, what do you think she's doing there? And what do you think's going on in her mind? And I've asked my 4-year-old, would you like to try karate? And that I think is important, because you're not talking about strength as like, let me flex my muscle for you. And I think that's important to acknowledge, because while our culture is moving more toward body diversity and body positivity, which is important because we are all different genetics and shapes and sizes, and we need to not say this is what's great and this is what sucks. But there is sort of this Fitspo, right? That's like strong is the new skinny, and they're basically talking about, muscles and still no body fat, and it's still appearance. But that is not at all the context of what you're talking about. You're literally talking about inner strength, yes, mental strength, attitude on life.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not about, it's about strong, meaning strong in character and strong in, having confidence in yourself and believing in yourself and pursuing what you would love to do, as opposed to placing your value on external. It's more about placing your value on who you are, what you love to do, how you treat other people. And that is sort of the measure of strength.
Yeah. You said something in the introduction. I want to ask you about it. I'm going to read from it. You said, "It never occurred to me that girls had to do this or be that or look a certain way. I had never been told that girls shouldn't play sports or be loud or question everything or get their hair cut exactly like their big brothers. I loved that my parents allowed me to be whoever I really was." So that is a huge statement, because culture is culture, and you give credit to your parents saying none of that matters. They kind of like supported you and what you wanted, so you were allowed to define your character. Do I have that right?
Yes, that's totally correct.
And that's awesome, because then you're going to pass it on to your kids, which is awesome, because that's what we need. I'm just so curious, like, was it something about them you think that allowed them to think that way? Because that is not the norm. And what I find the way people are now, is like this, I had this problem when I was raised and I want to fix it for my kids. Mm-hmm. So can you shed some light on like how you think that all came together, and maybe some advice for people who feel like they need to kind of like fix things for the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like there's stuff that that I changed from what my parents did that I'm doing for my girls. But that was one thing that I certainly was like that. And I didn't even realize it at the time. Like, what a gift that was. What a gift it was to never be told, you you need to wear, Katie, you need to go brush your hair, or Kate, you shouldn't cut your hair, or you shouldn't, do you want to try dance instead of soccer? I don't know what, thank God, but they were just very, very supportive of the stuff that I was interested in, and the fact that I wanted to do the stuff that my brothers did. And my older sister had no interest, and they fully supported her in all the stuff she wanted to do. They were just very progressive in the fact that they were celebrating each of the kids for what they wanted to do and who they were, and not trying to change us. And I definitely felt this need to pass that along to my girls, and then to have this opportunity to create something with the same sort of message in terms of what the book's message was. To be able to do that for other kids was really just a really nice, this wonderful gift to be able to do that, because it was this wonderful thing that never entered my head, that, I shouldn't be this or I shouldn't do that because I was a girl.
Yeah. We need that alone should be the reason for everybody to buy the book right there, because we need so much more of that, just kind of even if we're aware that there are certain expectations in the culture, that we can reject that and say, no, I get to decide here.
Yeah.
And you really did do a great job of showing a lot of diversity in the girls, everything from their interests to their motivations to the different qualities of their appearance. And, it was just kind of that's just a factual element of who they are. Mm-hmm. I wanted to read a couple of my favorite quotes and talk maybe a little bit more about the themes that you saw emerging as you photographed your subjects here. But one, it was stood out. I was I love this quote. She says, "Don't let anybody make you feel like you are not wanted or don't belong. You can do anything." And that was Valeria, age 11. Can you tell me a little bit about her?
Oh, that is, I love that quote. I think that was one of our later ones, but I mean, it's so true. And I mean, to hear that, one of the main things that coming away from meeting all these girls and shooting all these girls and getting to share their stories and have this little sort of window into their lives when I got to shoot them, I was generally with the girls when they were doing their favorite thing. They were doing the thing that they were the most confident at, the thing that they loved the most. And I came away from all of this really, really hopeful and really very positive about where these, I mean, at least the girls that the sample size that I had, all of these girls had such confidence and had such belief in themselves. And they were yeah, of course. Why would I not have this? And it was just really very, very nice to hear and see and get to experience.
I know, kind of that I don't know if it's an innocence thing because they're younger, but it's almost we're not born with the high level of insecurities that can develop. It's put in there by culture. It's put in there by our experience. And what you're showing is that, despite negativity from the outside, you can learn from that, grow from that, push through that, reject that, and still do things that matter to you. This quote from Hayley, age 10, "I think girls everywhere should focus way more on who they are inside and way less on what they look like outside."
Amen. Hayley.
I know. I'm going to put that on my post-it for the week. And then she said, "I found a lot of strength in just not caring. Lake water hair, don't care." I was laughing at that.
Yeah. The image, she's just coming out the lake. Her hair's all over the place. She's a gorgeous kid. She looks happy, and you can tell that, and it comes across in the image. And yeah, because I think part of it is that she's embracing all of this stuff. She's not saying, "Hang on, let me fix my hair," and let me make sure, let me blow dry. And no, she looks her best because she's being herself.
Yeah. And you also had some girls who clearly were going through serious personal setbacks in life that really you don't want anyone to ever have to go through, but especially at their young, vulnerable ages. Can you tell me maybe one or two stories of girls that you photographed who were really dealing with difficulties either in their own health or just suffering in life, pain in life?
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly one of the strengths that I wanted to capture, is that resilience. And what do you do? How do you react when life throws stuff at you that is not expected, and that a lot of, like, that adults don't know how to deal with? Like, there's one of the girls in the book, she's actually one of my daughter's real good friends. She has juvenile arthritis, and she suffers. She'll be in the wheelchair. She'll be in a wheelchair with a flare up, or in the hospital with dealing with, getting infusions, or dealing with a flare up that makes her whole body really sick. And she's 8 years old, and she plays, I coach her. She's on my soccer team, and she is like the most determined kid I've ever met. She literally has been in the hospital with 107 fever on a Friday, and, gets it under control, gets it back. And then she will be on the soccer field on Saturday looking to do everything she can, because she just wants to be a regular kid. She doesn't want to let this diagnosis and this illness stop her from doing any of the things that are important to her. And she just kind of puts her head down. I mean, it's really very inspirational for me to look at how she reacts. She puts her head down. She just gets through it, and she's not letting it change her life, as far as she possibly can. She just wants to be a regular kid, do the regular things, and live her life how she wants to live her life. And she just has the best attitude about everything. She's hilarious. This is Emmy, and she's in the book actually multiple times, in her wheelchair, climbing trees with my daughter, doing art. I mean, she just has this very full, rich life, and her diagnosis, which affects her every single day, she tries to minimize and make it as little effect as possible, which I find her so strong in so many ways, and thought she was a really great example of resiliency and the power of, your mental attitude on how, because she could be depressed and choose not to do a lot of things because physically it's difficult for her, but she just kind of keeps moving forward, which I think she's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what I felt when I saw her, is that what fine qualities she has been able to develop when a lot of people would feel that adversity and could almost use it as a reason to not, continue to push themselves, because it's exhausting taking care of an illness. And it would be completely understandable to just focus on that and not see yourself outside of it, but she's able to do it at such a young age. And it does, I think, in kind of like that positive motivational boost, like when you see somebody else doing it, where it's aspirational, like, well, maybe I can see myself in more of a positive light. Maybe I can bring out these, these things that are going well in my life, or these things that I do find interest in, even if I'm struggling with accepting my body or something in my health in some way, or I'm having some other difficulty. Can I find strength from this other person? And to be able to have that type of an impact at such a young age, I also think is really remarkable.
Oh yeah. These girls are super, like, they were super, super inspirational to me, and the strength that they had and the strength that they had to have was more than I expected. You think it definitely, like, I changed my point of view about what, how childhood, sometimes you think it's this great, easy time. And then you look at the things that they're dealing with and things they have had to overcome. And these are adult issues that they're dealing with, and they're dealing with them more maturely than a lot of adults.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it really is helpful, like, to whether to see it as an adult or to be able to share that with your kids so that they can learn and grow in these very important ways. And it's like, we never really know how the exact impact we're making on our kids in that exact moment, but it's just more about patterns in their direction that you feel is right. And you never really know what's going to sink in with them. I know we're almost out of time today, and I wanted to close on this question for you. We've got all these wonderful, diverse images and perspectives in the book. You know, I think that when listeners pick it up and they look at the photos, that they'll see that the true strength and joy that the girls have in their bodies and in their life. How can they kind of bottle that up and hold on to that as they get older and go into adulthood? Because I do think that this it gets more difficult to kind of keep that younger, youthful optimism alive.
Oh, I totally agree. Because I think as you get through puberty, the girls seem to lose that sense of confidence and that sense that they think that they're awesome. And I mean, my only suggestion is to try to do whatever you can to have this foundation that they have before, life and boys and hormones and all of that stuff sort of beats this confidence out of them, that there's this bedrock of their worthiness being on who they are as opposed to what they look like. And just this sort of basis that they can always come back to, this base of confidence that yes, it will get chipped away. And yes, we will go up and down with like how we feel about ourselves and what we, how we think. But at least that I think you have this window up until 13 or so to build up our girls' confidence so that when it does get rattled, they can come back to something that is already sort of strong already.
Yeah. No, I do think you're right. It's like you don't wait for big problems to happen if you don't have big problems right now. It's in the stuff that you're doing right now because it's going to help build their strength for the future. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that your girls are pretty tough cookies.
We try. We're trying, like everybody, everybody's trying their best.
Yeah. That's all we can ever ask of ourselves and each other,
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. How can people, obviously your book is available everywhere books are sold and they should go out and get it, but how else can people kind of get in touch with you or stay on top of the great work that you're doing?
Oh yeah, my Instagram is where I post the most often as a photographer. It's the most visual. So I'm on Instagram, KT Parker, and my website is the same, KT Parker. So those are probably the best places.
All right, I'll include those in the show notes. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. I would love if you could take a minute and leave a rating and review on iTunes. I know they don't make it very easy, so I have a few quick tips for you. First, launch the Apple Podcast app, and then you're going to click the search button to enter the name Body Kindness, and you'll find my podcast. You'll see the album art. And when you click on the album art, there is going to be a button in the middle at the top. It's called Reviews. Click that. And then when you scroll to the bottom, you will see an option to leave a review. And so you'll click that button and go ahead and write your thoughts. I also would love ideas for future episodes. You can email me, Rebecca@bodykindnessbook.com. Again, that's Rebecca@bodykindnessbook.com. I love chatting about the show and how it's helpful. And so keep those emails coming. And also, if you are not yet completed with the e-course, don't forget that's a free resource for anyone who's interested in practicing body kindness. If you visit bodykindnessbook.com and click on Get Started, just enter in your name and email and you'll get instant access. I'll see you there.